The final episode of The Handmaid's Tale is now upon us, and after giving us a perfect score in the penultimate one, receiving the joint highest rating an episode of the show has ever received, the finale has a lot to do to match that. With the synopsis for the episode being released, which says June reflects on her experiences in Gilead and decides what to do next. I think it's safe to say that the action within the show could well and truly be over for us, but you never know. With a lot still needing to be addressed before the show airs its final ever episode, I thought it would be worth giving my theories and predictions on what I think will happen. So let's get into it. Here is The Handmaid's Tale Season 6, Episode 10, Theories Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The meaning of the synopsis. What I think the synopsis is suggesting is that the episode is almost going to be like an epilogue. Episode 9 will most likely be the finale that we remember, because that was when June took down the leading commanders of Gilead and got the revenge that she desperately wanted, marking her story as being complete, as all that's left for her now would be to rescue Hannah, which is something that I don't actually think will happen. Just because Commander Wharton was killed, it doesn't necessarily mean that the battle has been won. It just means that Phase 1 is now complete. As we know, the commanders were on their way to meet with the High Council, which seem to have more authority than the commanders, so there'll most likely be some fighting back and the continued battle between the likes of Gilead and the army. What Nick's death, Lawrence's death, and Wharton's death symbolizes is the completion of June's personal battle against Gilead. The handmaids that she knows are safe, and she's eradicated the people that she despised, so her story is pretty complete there. This then begs the question on the section of what to do next in the synopsis. I think she'll be stuck between two different decisions. We know that June has a savior complex and can't back down from a fight if it means that the people that have been oppressed have any chance of freedom. So I imagine the thought of continuing to be within the fight will be something that she sees an appeal in. But then at the same time, she has Holly back in Alaska who's with her mother, and she might finally realize that it's time to stop the fight and go and be with her family. This is where I think the hunt for Hannah will conclude as well. I don't think June and Luke are going to be reunited with Hannah in the way that they think. Do I think they'll see each other? Yeah. But I think Hannah is going to have been so indoctrinated by Gilead and their teachings that she's not going to recognize her mother, and that's probably going to be the most heartbreaking thing for June. Because all she's wanted throughout the entirety of this show is to be with her daughter, and when she finally gets close to her, there's going to be no recognition at all. So it's most likely going to hurt a lot. This is where I think we could see June either make that decision to go back to be with Holly in Alaska with Luke, or if she does decide to go and look for Hannah, as she's getting closer to her, she'll find herself cornered, not being able to make it out, and end up being killed, which I think would be kind of poetic. June, a fighter who fought harder than most and for the people that were oppressed, died after finding the person that she loved most and didn't get the happy ending that we feel she deserved. It would be symbolic of the oppressive nature of Gilead, and it would shine a light on the fact that the fight is far from over, and that Gilead is only in a wounded state. As much as I'd like that to happen, part of me does think that if the show were going to kill off June, then it probably would have been done in the episode where she was dangling from a crane. But you never know, the story has been bleak from the off, and a bleak ending would suit it well, especially for the main character. So whilst I think there'll be a lot of reflection done by June in the final episode, I also think the decision that she makes will dictate her future. I can't see her walking away from the prospect of finding Hannah after all of this time, and I think that'll be the very thing that could end up killing her. Janine. When it comes to Janine, I actually think her story could go in two different directions. The first is that she's going to be the character that's going to get a happy ending, and the second is the complete opposite, and that it'll match the bleakness of the tone of the series and she'll have a sad one like June. In the previous episode, she mentioned how she wanted to join June in the fight because she wanted to get Charlotte, like how June wanted to get Hannah. So with Naomi and Charlotte being sent somewhere safe by Commander Lawrence, I wonder if we'll see Janine find the location and ultimately be reunited with her daughter. I always thought that Lawrence would have a hand in reuniting Janine and her daughter, but with him out of the picture, it seems like Janine might have to take it up upon herself in order to do that. Naomi and Janine have a troubled history and they both despise one another, and I think in order for Janine to be back with her daughter, she'll have to spill blood in order to do so, which would most likely mean killing Naomi, something that I don't think Janine will have that much of a problem doing in the slightest. With Janine being with her daughter, the very person that she wanted to be with most in this season, Janine's story will be complete and we'll see her leaving Gilead and being safe for the first time in her life, something that will enable her to set up a home for her new family. The other way that I think Janine's story could go with it being bleak would be if she ended up not being reunited with Charlotte. She won't have any idea where Commander Lawrence sent Naomi and Charlotte, and it could genuinely be just as heartbreaking as that. She won't know where to start looking and where to find them, so that would leave her with the option of setting out on a quest on her own to be able to find the both of them and get her daughter back. Because that's the very thing that she's been living for. Or she'll have to accept that she won't find her and she'll need to go back across the border and look to set up her life without her. Again, showing the brutal effects that Gilead has had on the people that became victims of it. I would love to see Janine getting a happy ending though, as she truly deserves one. And surely, just surely, somebody must get some closure in a positive way, right? Serena. Oh, Serena, you're the reason that your husband, Nick, and Lawrence are dead, which meant that we saw that she definitely picked a side, and she betrayed Gilead and God in the House of God, so it was fitting. Serena's mind is stuck between her religious beliefs in not wanting to turn her back on Gilead whilst looking to fight for progression, and also the idea of just wanting to run away from it all. Serena tasted what it was like to be outside of Gilead. She was met with hostility from many of the people that she'd wronged, and even after finding comfort in the settlement, it didn't take much to get her back there. This is probably due to the hold that it has and it being considered the Holy Land. So with Serena having those strong religious beliefs, that's why she ends up getting drawn back there. I actually think Serena's story could well mirror what happens in the novel, in the sense that it was left ambiguous in the novel, and I think even though the character has had a lot more exploration in the TV series, the inner conflict that she has in her mind on what to do is something that I feel will be at the epicenter of her fate. As I mentioned, she's always been drawn to Gilead, and even though she turned her back on it, she might well look to fight for that progression that she wanted within it, especially now that the likes of Commander Wharton is no longer around to stop her. One final redeeming quality that Serena might well have in the show is that she could tell June where Hannah most likely could be, and I think that'll show that June and Serena's relationship is one that will conclude on amicable terms. I don't think June will ever forgive Serena for everything that she did, but by Serena giving June that information, it'll almost be like a show of respect and that she does want to help her. So Serena's ending will most likely be one where we're left questioning if she's going to leave Gilead to settle down and enjoy being with Noah, or if she'll stay in New Bethlehem and look to progress Gilead forward. The State of Gilead. With The Testaments being on the horizon, which is the sequel novel getting adapted into a TV series and it being set 15 years after the events of The Handmaid's Tale, we know that the Republic of Gilead is still in existence, which means that the battle might have been won in the present day, but the war most definitely wasn't. This makes me think that we'll see Gilead in a wounded state, but with Guardians still present and the High Council still in existence, they'll be able to get things back on track slightly. I think this most likely means that some of the handmaids could end up being arrested and maybe even killed, and with Aunt Lydia being confirmed to be in the Testaments, it makes me think that she's going to be arrested and will be stuck there. So whilst it felt like June and the Handmaids won, as she said herself, this isn't the end, it's just the beginning of the end. So we'll probably see that 15 years later, Gilead is still functioning in a similar way to how we know it, but maybe some land might have been lost and the battles will still be going on. Honestly, I'm so intrigued to see how the show's going to end. Do I think the finale will be as good as episode 9? I don't think it will be. That's not me being a pessimist, but it's just me facing the facts that episode 9 was just so strong. It's one of the best that the show has ever made, so the chances of getting 2 in a row is very slim. However, what I think it will do is provide closure for many of the characters, and it'll also allow us to see the state that Gilead is in, which will most likely set up the prequel series that we're all in anticipation of. I'd actually love it if there were a time jump in the finale too, maybe even as a post-credits scene or something where we get to see what's on the horizon in the Testaments. It's wishful thinking, but you never know. So, there you have it, The Handmaid's Tale Season 6 Episode 10 Theories Explained. If you want to see every episode of The Handmaid's Tale Season 6 being broken down, then check the playlist below. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future videos. How do you think the show will end? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.